a special video about the backstory of my hobby, because I think that some of you guys, you have questions about that, and I just wanted to share this information with you. So the first question which always comes to the mind of anybody, I mean, like if they look at someone who has a certain hobby, they ask like, how did you start, what or who inspired you to do this? So first of all, my father used to be an avid fish keeper when he was a teenager, and when I was a child he didn't have any tanks already, but he told me the stories, and you know, my mom also told me that, you know, he kept a lot of fish tanks, a lot of different fish. So, and also me and my father, we did the first setup that I witnessed myself. So this was a 50-liter tank, and definitely heavily stocked, maybe overstocked. We had barbs, we had angelfish, neon tetras, and some other species as well. So this was my first aquarium, and I really enjoyed this. I really like this hobby. And the story behind this was, we went fishing, also my uncle was there, and we caught a lot of fish, and I just wanted one fish to be alive, and I thought like, okay, let's just put this into a jar or something and keep it alive, you know. And my father said that, okay, tomorrow we will go and make a setup, an aquarium setup. So we went to the store, a giant store, and we bought some fish, we bought an aquarium. So it was an immediate setup, but it was beautiful and fish were happy. I mean, relatively, I guess. So I was around like 10, but then you know, I didn't keep any fish for a long time. But when I was at 5th grade, or maybe later, I think it was 5th grade, right? So my mom actually encouraged me to start this hobby again, because I was always thinking like, okay, we back, so why don't I just start all over again with fish? And she helped me, she encouraged me, and because I was a teenager, I had a rough time back then, you know, being a teenager is always difficult, so this hobby helped me a little bit to overcome these problems and difficulties. So I had 20-liter tank, so I had platies, I had angelfish, and probably rasboras, a lot of different fish, and sometimes I bought them from the store which was in the city's aquarium, one of those revolutionary places where you could go and enjoy real aquascaping close to nature aquariums that are considered like the masterpiece of fish keeping worldwide. So they had more or less nature aquariums, a lot of different fish. And there was a store there back in the day, and they sold a lot of different fish, always healthy, always playful and beautiful fish, sometimes rare species. So I was like a customer, you know, back in my school days. But right now this place is closed, and it's closed for like good 10 years, maybe more. And I regret that I do not have any pictures, because back then we had no camera phones, nothing like that, and I couldn't take any photographs, unfortunately. When I was keeping fish back then, I didn't know a lot about this, because there wasn't enough access to the information. We couldn't have like the internet as now, you know. We have now a lot of different YouTube channels and a lot of web articles about fish keeping, but back in the day there was nothing like that. And also there were not so many people who could share knowledge about this. Plus, we had only some literature, and I read some books when I was a kid. Some of them were very old, some were rather relatively new, of that period, I mean. But there wasn't, again, enough information about aquascaping, about beneficial bacteria, about nitrogen cycle, about fish diseases and everything. Yeah, there was enough information, but maybe not enough research into beneficial bacteria and cycling, which was rather surprising as I look at it right now back at it, and I realized that there wasn't enough information about that, which is kind of surprising, you know. So well, but that's how the hobby started, and I actually kept fish like that for a long time. and I never gave up the hobby completely. I always had some fish, some aquariums, and when I was a student I also had them. And then for some period of time I gave up this hobby when I started working, obviously. But then I came back. And I remember that I came back because I had a small aquarium with some fish, and one of my friends, one of my acquaintances, she gave me some fish because she got a very let's say difficult job, and she didn't have time for the fish to look after. So that's why she knew that I was into aquariums a little bit, so she gave them to me, and they were living with me. And back in the day when I was working at the Lyceum as a teacher, I decided that maybe I should get more knowledge about that, because I was getting more and more interested into proper fish keeping, because I was looking at the things like nature aquariums and aquascaping, and I thought, well, this should be it. And back in the day I didn't have enough information about that. It was probably 2017, 18, so not so long ago. And what I did, I came across some YouTube videos, because I knew there were a lot of videos about fish keeping. So I came across one channel which really changed everything in my view of aquariums. This was the channel of Food the Flowerhorn, and everybody knows him. He is an amazing guy, very devoted to fish keeping, and what he does, it requires a lot of love, a lot of passion in the hobby, and I always admired this person. So I got inspired, and I decided maybe I should set up some no-filter tank. And I had this no-filter tank with a betta fish. Maybe it was too small for a betta, but I want to say that it had its ecosystem. Somehow I could achieve that, though there was no beneficial substrate, no filter, even no heater, because the temperature in the room never fell below 23 degrees of Celsius. So we had even some crustaceans in this thing, and people say that if you have them, you have an ecosystem in the tank. So I probably achieved that, maybe because there were a lot of plants that were kind of like filtering plants, including hornwort, including limnophila, elodia, duckweed. All these plants, they help to cycle the tank. And unfortunately I do not have this tank anymore with me, but it was a very nice, pleasant and rewarding experience, and I got inspired, and I thought, well, I should continue with that. So and I changed everything. I mean, like, I started to get more and more life plans, and before I didn't even have life plans, you know. I always thought that it was very difficult to keep them, and it can be very difficult, but it also depends on what species of life plants you have. Some of them are rather easy to begin with, and they help you in the hobby, like Hygrophila corymbosa or hornwort or Velisneria, you know. So I started with these life plants, then I learned a little bit about aquascaping. And this all, you know, led to expansion of the tanks. At first I had only 2, and now I had like 5. And I have 3 major aquariums, 2 5 gallons, 1 4.7, almost 5 gallon. And I also have a shrimp tank, a little shrimp tank, like 2 gallon. And I also have a grow out tank with guppies that is kinda temporary, because they grow and they go somewhere. I give them away. I give them to the pet store or to my friends probably later, until they stay small. They are here, you know, they in this thing. The other channels that inspired me, besides Food the Flowerhorn, I always enjoyed the videos, and I still enjoy them, made by Fish for Thought, made by Aquarium Co-op, by KG Tropicals, you know, just these big figures in this hobby. And later, you know, I discovered a lot of stuff by MD Fish Tanks, by George Farmer, you know, all these people, wonderful people, and they know what they are doing, and they are passionate about that. So just, you know, watching these videos, even without having fish tanks at home, is really, really inspiring, and it makes you chill out, relax, forget about your problems and everything. So, well, I'm not a very good aquascaper because aquascaping requires some effort and also some materials. For example, we do not have a decent aqua soil, and we do not have fertilizers. I mean, in the area where I live, it is very difficult to access. Maybe it's financially a little bit expensive, and to get these things is rather challenging. But I'm on the way to get some fertilizers, so I'm already in the process of ordering them. So, and also you should have some materials like hardscape, like wood and stones. I found some and I put them. It's not a very decently looking aquascape, but at least it looks better than just a bare tank. Sometimes I trim plants, sometimes I don't. It depends. Most of the time I try to, not I try, but I let plants do what they do, and that's pretty much what summarizes what I do with my tanks. Not so much. I change water weekly, and sometimes I may redecorate something. That's what I do. So that's pretty much how I got into the hobby, and how I developed all this knowledge and skills, by watching the YouTube videos, tutorials, listening to others, who shared their experience, and also maybe experimenting myself, making my own methods that sometimes surprisingly work. Well, why I keep tanks? It's a difficult question. Maybe because it's a habit, first of all. As you get accustomed to it, it's difficult to give it up. And also I like to watch this living beings, how they interact with each other, and they are beautiful and they make you happy by just looking and all that. And not talking about when they like give birth to babies and you see the babies grow. That's another type of experience. That's awesome. I mean, I didn't have success, never had success in breeding. Only the easiest species like guppies, they breed easily. But again, you need some effort to grow them, to feed them, to look after them, and look after water parameters and everything. So it's not always that easy as it may seem. And I like to see the plants grow. I like just the view, of the live plants, and everything is, just the creation of nature. And when you see that and you have that, that's kind of beautiful, and that's kind of very relaxing. And not only you just enjoy looking at it, you also enjoy looking after it. Well, I'm not saying that you have to be a very brilliant aquascaper. You need to have this sophisticated aquascape and design. But as long as you know the deal, as long as you try to keep everything in balance, I mean, like, you try to do your best, and when you take care of the plants and the fish, so they are in more or less balance, I think that's the most important aspect of this hobby. As you can see, I do not run the filter right now because I have sponge filters, and I have obviously an air pump, and when you record the video and there is an air pump running, it's very loud, so I switched it off temporarily. Well, thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Next time we will talk about something else as well. Stay safe. Thank you for watching once again. Take care of yourselves, and see you in the next video then.